The Packard Automotive Plant of Detroit, Michigan was one of the largest places of employment and production in Detroit's history. For just over 50 years, it served Detroit and the auto industry well. It's now been over 60 since Packard left. This is What Happened to Detroit's Packard Plant. The Packard Automotive Plant of Detroit, Michigan was built and first opened in 1903 as the main production facility of Packard Automotive. After its initial construction, the plant would undergo several expansions in its history, eventually covering 40 acres and reaching 3.5 million square feet. The plant was so large end to end that it was just over half a mile in length. As the physical size of the plant expanded, so did its employment, employing as many as 40,000 workers at one point. The most notable models produced at the plant included the Packard's 4, 6, 8, and 12-cylinder models. Throughout the early 1900s, Packards would mainly compete with Pierce, Arrow, and Peerless in the luxury market for cars. Packard would end up being the most popular of the three and the longest lasting of the three. With the growth and rise of GM's Cadillac and Ford's Lincoln luxury cars, the competitive nature of the industry would change though. Pierce, Arrow, Peerless, and several other luxury car companies and competitors to Packard wouldn't survive the 1930s. However, Packard would prevail and continue to do well in the decade. Packard's ability to adapt with lower-cost cars during the Depression, along with the Packard plant in Detroit being its only production assembly, would make the company able to save on expenses and compete. The plant would exclusively switch to becoming a World War II manufacturing plant from 1942 to 1945. It would make plane and boat engines for the war effort, while still maintaining strong revenue flow. Though the plant had seen much success and workflow through this point in its history, the post-war era would not be kind to Packard. In the late 1940s, Packard would begin to fall behind in its designs to GM, and would struggle to maintain its status as the top-selling luxury car company. In 1950, GM's Cadillac brand had surpassed them. Packard's would begin to lose prestige and would continue to have to invest in just keeping up. The company began producing more modern and radical designs, such as the Packard Clipper and the Packard Patrician. It was all for naught, though, as the company, after increased competition, a costly purchase of Studebaker, and no war production deal for the Korean War, would lead to Packard's end. In 1958, the now Studebaker Packard Corporation would close the plant, with the merged company ceasing operation 8 years later. The Packard plant would be used in various capacities in the following years, housing various companies and serving as a storage building. Though housing many companies during this era, parts not occupied would start to deteriorate, and by the late 90s the city of Detroit, tired of the criminal activity the plant was attracting, decided to step in. Then owner of the plant, after a foreclosure with the previous owners, a plan was put forth to demolish it, preparing to spend $4 million to do so. In early 1999, the demolition had begun. However, shortly after it started, it was halted later in that year. A court order through the previous owners prevented much of any demolition actually happening. It was ruled that if their unpaid tax obligations could be fulfilled, that the plant would be theirs again. Paid they did, and the city lost control. The previous owners would regain control. However, by 2010, the plant was completely abandoned. In the time since Packard vacated, the plant has undergone a slow but measured decline. However, in the more recent decades, it has undergone a more hastened decline, and has undergone much vandalism, scrapping, and weathering from being unkept and mostly abandoned for so many years. It has also become a famous symbol of Detroit's decline. It would go on to be sold in 2013 for just over $400,000 to Fernando Palozetto, who had planned to redevelop the plant into a mixed-use business and housing site. This was expected to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. A small effort was made to renovate one building of the complex. However, the project would never really get off the ground, and after 7 years, the plant was listed for sale. Today, the site still sits abandoned. The city seized parts of it and has demolished small portions. However, most of it still remains. In 2019, the famous Packard Plant Bridge would collapse onto the street below, serving as just another symbol of its decline. While its days look numbered, the challenges and costs of getting rid of such a large building and complex are ever present. Aside from this, the land is only so valuable in a city that contains so much vacant land as it is. It remains to be seen what the future holds for it. Thank you for watching.